Oh boy, back to the Knuckles series. And what an issue to come back to. Family drama, more characters, secret, mysterious talks, and talking. Dialogue. Talking. So much talking. Oh lord. At this point, we're about halfway through the series' lifespan, and I have to be honest, I don't feel like a lot of substance has happened at this point. Sure, we've had some scattered incidents here and there, and of course, there was the issue with Dimitri and the Dark Legion, but on the whole, this story has been taking its time and stringing us along based around those deeper secrets and mysteries that it has introduced, but its absolute refusal to actually advance the overarching plot has made those mysteries feel tedious. The cover is pretty boring, with Knuckles sitting in the center surrounded by a bunch of heads of various other characters behind him. There are a few that we know back there, like SBO and Mighty, but far more that we don't. Or maybe we do and I just can't remember them because, they didn't leave much of an impression. Also, some of them have lemon puckering going on, and I think that's pretty funny. We open on Lorelei once again praying in the church, looking pretty intense during it as well. When she returns to her apartment, who should she find waiting for her there but Knuckles, finally back after that little detour he'd taken in the last issue. Winmacar, Lara's boyfriend, tells her that he knew that Knuckles was back and gives her a cup of milk to help her relax. Must be real fancy milk too if they're putting it in a wine glass. Much to Knuckles' discomfort, as the two of them get comfortable, Lara immediately asks him how he managed to get back on his own after he and Ether just poofed away like they did. But never mind that, there's more conspiracies to hear about as we follow a shuttle as it enters into Haven and touches down, where we are reminded of the Brotherhood, all those wonderful folks who won't tell anyone, including us, what is going on. As a very aged Echidna, identified as Tobor, walks out of the ship, we once again bounce back to Lorelei's apartment, where Lara is surprised to hear that Knuckles was able to create an energy tube all on his own. Knuckles was actually hoping she might be able to tell him more about how that was possible, but Lara seems hesitant to talk about it, saying that he was born as any other Echidna was, but that his father did something to him between his birth and hatching. As shown in a flashback, she started to realize that something was off about Knuckles as he started to show aptitudes that no child his age should have. He was spelling before he could speak, for example, very advanced words too. When he was a bit older, his father took complete control of his studies, and at that point, Lara basically got locked out of her son's life. She has no say in anything anymore, and Locke is very firm about it since that's how he was raised. Lara decides to go and visit Locke's mother, going a little chibi here for a second, in hopes of getting some advice, but all she's told is essentially that since Knuckles is a guardian, this is the way it's always been, and she should be more concerned with being a good example rather than a good mother. Even when asked if she's happy with how things turned out, the grandmother basically just says she'd be lost without her husband, with a look that says to me, brainwashing. Lara did try to take her advice at first, but time changed her, and with her more open upbringing compared to Knuckles' grandmother, she just could not take being sidelined in her own son's life. We cut back to the meeting in Haven, where the Brotherhood is going over some of the more chaotic things that have been happening in the world. Sonic's name comes up quite a few times during the conversation, with most of them quite annoyed with the Hedgehog, since he might save the day, but he's also been leaving a lot of messes in his wake that these Guardians seem to have to clean up afterwards, somehow. Basically, we're shown that this power-hungry cabal of mysterious Guardians is spying on the entire world. It's pointed out that one of the big issues is that there's no longer a single evil entity that everyone can rally against. With Robotnik gone and his forces scrambling to establish themselves in different regions, and others attempting to take advantage of the power vacuum, with the ordinary populace just wanting to rebuild and then move on with their lives, there's quite a bit going on that could set off a powder keg at any moment. Seeking advice, they turn to the ants to see what they think about the situation, and we actually get a little bit more on just how this whole setup is supposed to work, with the ants pointing out that the Guardian is the protector of the whole of Angel Island, while the Brotherhood is essentially a group that makes sure that Echidna interests are maintained across the globe. In essence, they pull strings in the background to make sure that any situation either doesn't affect them or affects them positively. The ants essentially tell them that they have two choices here, with the way things are going. They can either carry on as they always have and just let their species become completely irrelevant to Mobius as a whole, or they can actually start doing something. That something basically advocating for the Brotherhood to become the leaders of the Echidnas and the other species of the planet to lead them to a golden age. Oh goody, more colonialism and conquering talk. I'm pretty sure that's not how it's meant to be taken, but given the series' track record, I can't help but feel a little uncomfortable with how these topics are being handled here. Meanwhile, Knuckles is enjoying an only slightly awkward dinner with his mother and her boyfriend when he's told that his mom is planning to marry Winmaker. This revelation of his mother wanting to remarry seems to shake Knuckles pretty bad, and he runs out, Lara wanting to go after him, which she probably should, but Winmaker stops her, saying that right now they should be patient and just wait for him to come back. Knuckles ends up running past the Chaotix, everyone except Charmy, who notice how upset he looks when running past, and while Vector wants to go and check on his friend, Julie Sue states that it should be her to go and talk to him. Vector doesn't really like the idea and makes it known to the others, but both Espio and Mighty warn him off and encourage Julie to go after him. Vector points out that they're Knuckles' friends, he should have them close at hand if something goes wrong, but Espio merely says that the look in Julie's eye definitely said that she wasn't going to be stopped by anyone, least of all him. Yeah, okay, but you still could have gone with her? You are his friends, checking up on him is something that friends do. Meanwhile, back to the Council of Elderly Dumbasses, where the topic of Knuckles is brought up, with it immediately pointed out that Athair has put him into a scenario where he was able to manifest abilities that he hasn't fully matured into yet. Some of them think it's just a case of going through a sort of delayed puberty, but this sinister-looking figure here, identified as Spectre of all things, points out that this is all probably a byproduct of Locke messing with the natural order of things. While Locke attempts to defend himself, pointing out that any protests against what he was doing were quiet at best at the time, Saber counters that he has the benefit of hindsight at this point, and has gained knowledge that shows that Locke has made a bit of a faux pas. What exactly is that? We don't know. We aren't told in this issue. Isn't that always just the way? As the Council decides that they're going to have to keep a very close eye on Knuckles in the future, we cut back to the Echidna in question, sitting on the edge of a dock as Julie Sue comes by. Despite Knuckles' protestations, she sits down next to him, even planting a little kiss on his cheek as a means of attempting to cheer him up, returning the favor for him cheering her up earlier. Knuckles states that he isn't even sure he likes her, but in the final page of the comic we see that they're both still very confused about their feelings for one another. This would be a very sweet, dramatic moment for a blossoming romance between the two of them if I actually believe that these two had any sort of chemistry with one another. Most of their screen time has been the two of them arguing with one another, and while they have had some heart-to-hearts earlier in the series, it's not incredibly substantial. Again, the fact that their romance is basically some sort of spiritual/biological draw that all Echidnas experience does not help my feelings on the matter. This issue on the whole is boring. This is supposed to be something of a breather episode, something quiet between the action, a chance to show some character development, give the characters a chance to interact, but because this series loves its secrets and mysteries, what we have here is an issue that is primarily exposition, slowly pushing forward towards some sort of resolution for the Brotherhood business and why Knuckles is so damn special, but again, most of it is just exposition at best and more vague hinting at worse. The Knuckles side at least has a little bit more going for it. I rather like Knuckles' reaction to his mother getting remarried. He's clearly conflicted. He's a kid who reveres his father and does love his mother, but spent a lot of time away from both, away from society in general, and so he's not really sure how to process his feelings on the matter. I don't really like the fact that the only person who was allowed to interact with him afterwards was Julie Sue, though. I have nothing against her as a character, but the fact that she threatened Knuckles' other friends to let her handle it alone, the fact that Winmaker stopped his mother from chasing after him, I don't think that was handled very well. True, Knuckles is feeling pretty vulnerable by now, but at the very least, letting them directly ask him if he is alright, and then say they'll give him space if he needs it, would have handled the situation a little bit better. Art-wise, the issue feels a little bit middling to me. It's a pretty well-established art team at this point. Manny Galan is penciler, Andrew Papoy is inker, and Barry Grossman is colorist, but I don't think it's their best work. The art isn't bad by any means, but everything just looks slightly off to me. I'm not really sure how to describe it. There's the old issue of expressions not really matching what the characters are saying, some characters looking a touch off-model here and there, not so much that they look ugly, but just off enough that it's notable. It feels like the art team might have been a bit under a crunch for this one. We'll see if things improve at all when we take a look at our next stop of the series, Knuckles the Echidna, issue 17. The cover definitely gives a good impression, so we'll see how that goes. I'll see you next time, everyone.